everybody. This is Bask Iyer, CIO for VMware, and I have my friends here, Didier, Jeremiah, Paul Green, Phares, with me to have some interesting conversation about what we're doing during the COVID time, if you will. First, I wish everybody well and hope everybody's safe, but why don't we let our guests make a quick introduction about themselves. So can I start with you, Didier?
Yeah, sure, boss. Good morning. I'm Didier Sabardu. I'm working for Société, Générale, a European bank based in Paris, and I'm the deputy head of digital workplace. So I'm in charge of all the laptop, desktop, telephony, messaging, communication, and all those stuff at the group level across the world.
Thank you. Jeremiah?
Yeah, greetings everyone. I'm Jeremiah Chunge from Genghis capital in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm in charge of ICT and alternative channels, basically looking at the internal infrastructure of technology of the operations of the company, as well as the external interface to the clients using the channels that is technology.
So from Genghis, can we go to Angel? Paul?
I'm Paul Green with Angel MedFlight. I am the Chief Development Officer and CIO, responsible for all of our information technology from a worldwide perspective, since we operate all over the world, as well as all of our business development and marketing. And we operate pretty much all over the world. As of right now, we've operated in 52 countries.
Nice to see you. And then Phares?
Kariuki Phares, CEO of North Africa. We are a managed consulting company. Jeremiah is one of our customers. So we basically help companies figure out their cloud strategy.
Oh, nice. So thank you all for joining, different time zones, different locations. But I thought we'll just have a quick, friendly discussion. And first is, are you all being safe? How's your companies doing? I mean, are your employees able to be productive? Give me a little bit about what the life is like that in your state, county, city, and your company, if you will.
Yeah, I can start if you want. So as we are based in Europe, we have been, I would say, the second wave. It started out, as you all know, this crisis started in Asia. So we have been hit quite early February, something like that, and quite severely. So we had to adapt ourselves. The good news, if I may, is that as we are based in Paris, we have some bad habits as French people, and we had some strikes before Christmas, and we already had to adapt ourselves to difficulty for our staff to commute to the office. So we experimented in November, December with the strikes in the public transport, which was somehow facilitated our task to adapt to the COVID crisis. And so we were quite fast in enabling massive home working. So yes, I would say there's always a silver lining in each cloud, as you said.
And Phares, what is going on with you in your neck of the woods?
In our side, we are largely operating with a curfew, so movement has been limited. We've been unable to leave the city for the last, I'd say, 1.5 months. Movement into and out of the capital city and the second largest city, Mombasa, has been blocked. So it's interesting. Though the concern is that the cases are now really accelerating, regardless of the government's measures, even though they have been quite aggressive in trying to control the spread. So it's just, we suspect that the lockdown and the curfew will keep going for some time. So like right now, I can't leave my house. You can't leave the house between, I think it's 7 p.m. and 5 a.m. Everyone has to be home in the capital, actually across the country. But in the capital city, you can't even leave the capital city at the moment. So there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment, and not too much clarity on how this is, when this is going to end, because things are beginning to get worse. Earlier, we were having 3 new cases a day. I think today we reported over 100, so it's quite worrying.
Yeah, because we thought it was relatively safe. We didn't hear much about that region, right? Most of the time we heard on other regions, but that is not. That is pretty sad to hear. Jeremiah, similar, or what's your experience?
Yeah, actually, mine is similar since we are both in the same city, Nairobi, Kenya, together with the Phares. And it's pretty much destabilized businesses around, and also expectations, plans that different businesses had put in place. Ourselves, we were on the verge of launching a product that we had to do a sit and wait and just see how the wave goes in the last 1 or 2 months. And luckily we had done quite much on digital transformation, which has enabled us to stay afloat and be able to serve our customers. But it's not the case across the industry. I'm sure our peers in the same industry have suffered quite a bit.
So Paul, you are facing both ways. How are you dealing personally, your company, and then, but you're servicing a lot of customers, or your customers are also going through a lot of pain, not just with COVID, but with other issues, right? So
it was unique. We knew once California got put on, the stay-at-home order, we knew it was just going to be a matter of weeks for Arizona. So we wanted to take a really proactive approach. We didn't want to be in a situation with our company where Arizona went on lockdown and we had to scramble to get everybody to work from home, because what we do requires that we have operations 24/7, 365. So we instituted our business continuity plan about 2 weeks prior to the official Arizona lockdown. We got everybody working from home in about 3 days. We were up and running full operations. As that kind of started to progress, we knew lockdown was coming, and we wanted to make sure we were all, fully operational. So once the operations kind of really went on lockdown, we were already operating, and it started becoming increasingly harder for a lot of the facilities that we work with. We work with hospitals all over. They stopped allowing patients to come from the outside of the country. So now we can't go get patients, which is what we do a lot in like Mexico and the Caribbean and things like that. That started to, you guys can't go. So that's really hard for us, because that's what we do. We want to go pick up those patients. Then we had hospitals internally. We had a lot of meetings that are already pre-scheduled for us. We do a lot of work with a lot of facilities to help them out with their patients. Now you guys can't come. What does that look like? And then now some of the people that we work with are being furloughed because technically, a lot of the stuff that we work with is considered a elective procedure. And so things really started to rapidly change. That's lasted pretty much through the last, 2 months or so. Things have really started to open up over the last few weeks. A lot of the facilities are starting to do elective procedures again. Things are really starting to pick up. We're starting to move patients again. There's a lot of urgency on certain types of patients because they have had to wait so long for their procedures. Things are really starting to change, but there's so much strict, policy now that has been put in place before these patients can move. We are doing a couple of things proactively on our side to get some devices so that every patient can be checked a certain way. Blood gases can be checked a certain way, temperatures. We have all these internal protocols that we're working on. We have facilities that have their own protocols. We have a facility we're working with where they will only accept patients if they come via an air ambulance, because they do not want them to have potentially be at risk by going commercially, all these different things. And so it's really completely changed the landscape of what you thought healthcare was, because now you've got a scenario where it's no longer just healthcare. You can't just show up at a hospital and expect to be taken care of. There's so many precautions being taken care of. You've got people who are staying at home, and I don't know what the exact percentage is, but there's a huge rise in the number of heart attacks in the country because people are having cardiac issues, but they're too afraid to go to the hospital. You can't do that. You have to go, because people have this idea that because of COVID, I shouldn't go get my health care because, but the reality is, what, it's better to go, because the chances of you actually getting COVID are substantially less than you dying at home of your heart attack. So just go. There's a risk with everything, but I think that there's a much better reward for actually going out and making sure you get that health care that you need. So it's been really, really unique. We are still working from home, even though as of May 15th, Arizona has released their stay-at-home order. We are still operating from home. We have no plans to go back to the office. We are working on our re-entry plan. We've got a lot of different things in the works, but we have not set a date for the employees. We do have a lot of things going on with the employees. it's changed the landscape of how you operate. So like a lot of the parents, especially, they got kids at home, they're working from home, they're not used to that. You've got all these outside things, the anxiety of not knowing, what's going to happen. It's really puts a lot of pressure, I think, on some of the employees. We are going to announce something for the employees. So we're trying to do some proactive things to keep the employees' spirits high, keep them positive, keep them going forward. And just like everybody else that's on the call today, the only way we're going to get through this is as a team. And every single person is trying to figure out how to do the best thing for their team. So we're putting into place some things just to keep our teams positive, just to keep them moving forward, just to keep their outlook, bright, because the only way you get through something like this is as a team. I mean, there's not going to be one person who's going to say something that's going to change the way all of this works. Everybody's going to have to work together as a team to get through it.
See, that's kind of, Paul, that's a good one. That's kind of why we wanted to have this kind of a meeting together. Is there's so much information, misinformation, and things going on. I wanted to talk to real people, real practitioners, without an agenda to say, what are you going through? What can we actually do, etc. Here, listen, I also, it's good to start with that kind of perspective initially, because sometimes I start complaining. I'm taking my son's room. Things are all over the place. It's not a great place to work. It's not very professional, and I can complain about it. And then you look and say, hey, people are frontline people. There are people actually dying and getting really sick, and people don't have the internet and the facilities to work. So people who are working remotely, like some of us can get away with it, we should feel fortunate, right? I mean, so that's, sometimes we lose the perspective. We go into, well, everybody's working remotely, everybody's productive, everything's great. But there's a lot more to life than just being able to do that. So it's a good start. But, talking about remote working from home and so on, what are you folks doing specifically? It's just amazing how efficiently the companies that can work remotely are working remotely for me. There's a lot of folks who just, so thank God we made the investment in technologies a few years back, and our business folks are now thanking us for saying, thank you for doing the right things and going to the right technology. So first is, are you doing something unique for the people? I mean, other than the actual enabling technologies, are you giving them some tools? Are you giving them a stipend or something to operate? What are you folks doing to make people more flexible and more effective?
What we did is we granted them the means to work from home. So through the first things to do, they were able to do is to access to their email and to their agenda, and so to keep connection with their customers and with their staff. So it was on a mobile telephone. Okay, that's nothing new here, but it was just we hence increase the number of people who benefited from this possibility, and then we granted them a secured access through VPN, and so to give them access to the IS. By massively increasing the number of VPN connection. So we were, before the crisis, something in the range of 5,000 users, and now we are more in the range of 50,000. So in a very few weeks, that's quite impressive. Yes.
One of the unique things for us that we didn't plan for, and I don't want this to sound like a VMware thing, but we were on Workspace 1, and traditionally before, if I wanted to help somebody out as a user with their computer, you had to use remote desktop, and you helped them out with remote desktop, or you gave them a WebEx, or nowadays people like to use Zoom, whatever it was. But there's actually this item that's built into Workspace 1, which allows you to support them, and it takes over their computer and you can see it from your desktop. It's changed everything. I couldn't believe how easy it was to help manage the users now, which is something we did not expect. So just the level of service for the individual employee, and like I always say, I treat my employees like customers, because if you treat them, like a customer and you give them the best customer service, they're in turn going to do that. It was so much better for them, because it was so hard to assist them by using, remote desktop, because they can't see what you're doing. But when they can see what you're doing and you can help them out, just simple things like with some of the users, they weren't used to connecting to the VPN. They weren't used to doing different things. And it's like, once they got used to it, they're fine. But that was a real big help. I actually blown away by the way it works. And so that's been a really big positive thing. Well, everything else is very standard. I mean, everybody's operating from home. Everybody is on a soft phone. The beauty of it is no user at home works any differently than if they were in the office, and it was already pre-designed to work that way. And I know that's not the same for everybody, but we built it to work the same regardless of where you're at, and that was just because of our business continuity. But some of the users absolutely love it, and some of the users are like, when can I go back to the office? And I think that's normal. I mean, and I know you're like that too, Bask, because like I'm a people person. I want to go into the office and I want to interact with people. And I think that, for what I do, that's a huge positive thing for me. But I know that that's not the same thing for everybody. There's so many companies where working from home can be the new normal.
Yeah, just a little twist on it. We'll come back to Jeremy and Phares as well. Is, this trend has gone several times. We never cared much about call centers. That's why we outsourced it, we offshored it, we gave it to the lowest cost person possible in whatever locations. And then the service went so bad that people do judge you based on employee experience, right? So you can talk about digital transformation and doing all this stuff, but if people can't get their email working, or they need to be shown how VPN works, right? Once or twice. And there's nothing better than showing them, let me show you online.
Exactly.
And your volume of calls to help desk comes down, right? People say, that's it, I can do it next time, right? So, in the YouTube kind of generation, I've now learned how to fix my bicycle because I'm so bored sitting at home. I've watched every video and I've taken every part of my cycle apart. But all you do is see somebody do it and say, that's not that complicated. I can change the derailleur. That's no big deal. So similarly, showing people how to do this is very effective. So what has happened for us in help desk is we said we first outsourced offshore, got the cost down, and self-service, made it kind of miserable for people. And then realized that's the wrong way. And then we've come back and said, Genius Bars, you can come in and ask questions, just talk to us. Don't need even log questions. People loved that. Customer service came up. Due to COVID, we're not able to provide this desk side service anymore. So now we're doing that kind of service offline. And then people but with an attitude of customer service rather than my cost being reduced, my satisfaction level is higher actually right now since I've gone offline again. So we've decided now, why should I bring it back? Why would I bring it back even if you open it? Because people seem to like it better. We do save money, but at the same time, that is not the only objective. The objective is employee experience first. So now we have taken all our colleague experience people. They're all working remotely, but they do the same thing like you do. Somebody calls, they do answer with a smile. You can call them on Zoom, you can chat, you can do on Slack, you can email them, you can go to the help desk and log. We're not going to yell at you if you don't log your calls. And we can either fix it for you or show you how we fix it. So I think that's a big change in how we support people. So let me pause and say, Phares and Jeremiah, what something you guys doing to make it all work and enable flexibility?
Well, in our case, a lot of the work has primarily been for our customers. Internally, we'd already deployed cloud native tools. So we were using Slack. We've got a Dropbox type solution for file sharing. We have soft phones. So literally, it was just employees working from home. The workflow is exactly the same. What we've ended up doing is there's a lot more work we're doing for customers to enable them to have the same sort of experience. But for us internally, the process was quite seamless. I don't think anyone had any form of issue. The only thing is people will maybe miss their desk phones and that's it. But, you've got a soft phone client, you've got all the files that you need. Most of our applications are either SaaS apps or we host them and you can connect to them directly. So for us internally, the process was seamless. But we've been doing a lot more work with our customers to sort of help them get to the same level. So we've seen a lot more demand for people finally understanding that, wait a second, collaboration tools are important. And yeah.
For our side, actually, we were lucky to have done our digital transformation journey beginning in 2017. And in Kenya, that was just about the time we were getting into our general elections, which is held every 5 years. And during that time, there's usually unrest here and there, and some people can't be able to travel to work or delay, and we still have to serve our clients. So that's about the time we were engaged with North Africa, starting up our cloud journey. And we had a rerun of elections even in the same year in 2017, like 2 months after we had the first election. And it helped us prioritize remote working from the word go, because we wanted our clients to be able to be served by our staff from the comfort of their home. And also we wanted the safety of our staff to be upheld. And we saw a few learnings from that time. And we saw the need of what we needed to include on our automation journey, things like soft phones, which Phares has talked about, adding it onto the platform, as well as using more secure devices. So we got Chromebook laptops, which we did VDIs, virtual desktop interface, and virtualize the applications that you are using. And with that, staff were able to now progressively work even outside the office post-election, even after the election ended. They're able to work remotely outside the office, and also were able to go to visit the clients and also demonstrate to them if it's a financial service or if it's an account or trade live from their machines. And the deployment was easier. It's easy to manage, it's easy to monitor, it's easy to configure. In minutes you're up and running for even if it's a new stuff that you're onboarding or if it's a stuff you're offboarding. So those kind of prepared us into what we are having now. And the goodness of digital transformation, it's a journey. It's not a project that ends. So you keep on improving and iterating as you go along. So once we completed that, we realized we have sorted out our staff needs in terms of being able to work internally and being efficient, but what about our clients? Mm-hmm. So we looked into developing a mobile app to be able to give our clients an interface to the business, whereby they can be able themselves to transact, to internally inside the app. You can also be able to talk to us. So you don't need to make a call to our office to be assisted. You don't need to write an email to be assisted. You go inside the app, you chat with us, you get feedback, you ask questions, you're answered. You view your portfolio on the app, you're onboarded digitally, you don't need to come to the office physically to bring your forms. So that we did a year just after the elections had been concluded. And that was 2018. So 2019, started working on another project now. And come 2020, after the pandemic broke out, we realized the benefits are huge on the investments that we had done coming along the journey up to now, because we saw a surge in clients opting in, trying to use our platform using the mobile app. We saw a surge in clients trying to move from our competitors to us, because whenever they were calling our competitors were telling them, I'm not in the office, I can't access the systems, so I can't be able to serve you. But they were seeing online, we were talking about us being able to serve clients, and they're now saying, how do I move my portfolio to you guys? How do I work with you guys? How do I open accounts with you guys? And also they were seeing the interaction with the platform between us and the clients is still seamless. So it enabled us to be able to carry our business, and staff had already familiarized, because that's the other problem. When the pandemic happens, maybe you have it as a BCP plan, but staff have never familiarized with the tools, and also being working remotely. But staff on our side are already familiarized with it. So it was an easy transition to just continue doing your work. Of course, we had already set up VPNs. They understood what VPNs are. They understood how to connect. So it was an easier discussion. And then what we also did along the way, since we did our cloud journey, we also ensured that we did cybersecurity implementation using an outsourced partner. And we usually do quarterly trainings for sensitization to the staff, because staff, your in-house threats can be your most vulnerable point of entry. So they understood the tricks that sometimes you're seeing now on the media. People are using files that are sending as attachments, with attachments telling you fake numbers about an infection somewhere, and it's very enticing to look at that file or click and open, but you don't know the source or the email. So they are more sensitized about how to even look at phishing attacks. And we've done simulations, we've done even testing of the client, of our staff, without telling them, and then we do another training and say, actually, this was a test, and these are the ones who passed, and these are the ones who failed, and this is how do you prevent yourself. So the preparation up to the point of COVID enables us to just seamlessly continue, and most of the staff were able to just transition and be able to continue working, and clients were able to still continue being served.
Good.
Yeah.
So, Didier, I have a question. I mean, are we going to go back? Why would we go back? And so I agree with Paul saying I'm dying to go to work. I want to see people. I want to, I don't want to be working like this. But putting that aside, why would we want to be in a hurry to bring people back? And what is? We figured out how to work. There's some benefits there's a lot of benefits in working remotely. I feel like I could hire anybody I want right now, instead of just waiting for people who move to California, and I can hire a diverse set of folks. So I think it does a lot for inclusion, diversity, obviously pollution. It looks so much cleaner. I've never seen my city this clean ever. And I am incredibly productive. In fact, the reason I'm tired is not because I'm not able to work, but because I'm able to work all the time. So I have to figure out how to take a break. I don't take a coffee break or things that you do at work. So what is the feeling in Europe, though? I mean, sometimes the regulation and so on would get a little tedious in some cities and countries, but are we going back? Are we going to go 5 days a week to work?
I fully agree with what Jeremiah just shared with us, and to your point, and that's true that when we are well prepared, when we believe companies who engaged the digital transformation a long time ago, they are well prepared, and they were able to cope with this crisis almost seamlessly. But I would say between managing a crisis mode and the day-to-day, the real life, there might be a difference. And what is sustainable for a few weeks or even a few months might not be sustainable in the long run, I'm afraid, because maybe we're not ready, so we are learning while walking, and we are discovering how to overcome any new hurdles each time we are facing one. That's true. But I'm afraid there are some limitations we are facing at the moment. We'll take an example. We have to some of our, so first we have some part of the bank. People are actually still in the office. They have no choice, because we have some in the branches, in the retail branches. It's not the same story. And our colleagues, they have to go there every day. So we have to equip them with a mask, gloves, alcoholic gel and stuff to make sure they have safe conditions. So I'm talking about the other part of the bank, which is more the investment bank or the support functions, are not directly client facing. So that's true for those one. We have been able to deliver almost, not almost, we're actually all the services, all client, all activities, we have been able to deliver them without any significant impact, which is, again, quite unbelievable when you think about it. But we have some of our staff, they are at home, they don't have fiber, they don't have broadband, and they have kids, they won't be able, or the kids were not allowed to go to school as well. Their wives or the family member were working from home, so they had to share infrastructure. And we noticed a broadband issue, bandwidth issue, which was okay. We managed to adapt, but when we had to patch, because we have some security patch, for instance, we have to download an inch PC and make sure. It was quite an issue for some of them to patch every month. I don't know, 50,000 PC every month to distribute the bandwidth and make sure people are still able to have a video call and everything. It was an issue. So it was okay for a few days, few weeks, maybe a few months, but maybe not. We are not ready yet for the full to consider it as a new normal. That's the first topic. And the second one, you said you are totally able to onboard new resources and stuff like that. For us, it's not yet the case. We have some, because we still have two factors authentication. We have some stuff like that, where to access to our information systems. And we have to give somebody access card, to give him a new corporate laptop or corporate phone. And so far, there are still some physical contact. So we try to limit them as much as possible, but we are not yet totally ready for zero contact.
So Didier, we're more than happy to share. We're doing onboarding, everything, two-factor authentication, issuing laptops, everything. I'm sure Paul is doing it all remotely now. And there are 2 or 3 ways, solutions to make it happen, including one VMware mix, but there are plenty of solutions. So we're more than happy to share that with you, right? So I think that has actually been brilliant because I get tweets from employees who join saying, I joined this company and the laptop magically arrived at home and I clicked a few keys and was just like setting up a mobile phone. I was ready to go, two-factor email. And people don't expect that, right? They expect the first week to be miserable.
Indeed. So, okay.
Yeah.
You agree?
People expect the old-fashioned way. It's a new world.
Yeah. So
I mean, even 3 years ago, you guys, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're talking it's almost like 180-degree shift from what you're used to, and that's hard because especially if you've been like me, I've been in the industry now. This is going on my 22nd year. If you had told me when I started that was going to happen, I'd be like, you're crazy, because it's so hard. I was like, do you know how long it takes me to set up a laptop? And when I first started, you'd spend like 12 hours setting up a laptop. Now it's like 15 minutes.
Yeah. Those are some of the good ones that are happening. I think this has definitely changed. I don't know if I'm going to go to work 5 days a week. I may go to work several times, but I'm just thinking through is why would I may work 6 days a week because there's so much you can do from home. But would I go 5 days a week to work? Because I will go to work more or less to just show people I'm working. So what I can get done in 5 days, I can get done in 4 days easily by going to work, I think. So, and things like that. Some people can do it 1 day a week. But, what we go to work for now, I'm realizing, is to build a social glue, right? So it's a lot easier to work if you've met with people face to face. And that's what I miss with the colleagues is I want to reconnect not every hour on the hour, but I want to reconnect with them frequently, so reestablish those relationships.
Yeah. And for me, that's exactly the point, is what we are missing when you are onboarded. I can imagine the technology, and probably the one provided by VMware, could allow us to remove all those need for physical contact for when we onboard new joiners. But then to give this feeling to be part of the team, to create this team spirit, of course, we have Zoom, we have many new tools. I mean, I don't know how many of them are on the market, but there are plenty of them, very efficient. But still, you can, when you know someone, you can talk to them, you can see them, you can have. But the ability to create the feeling to be part of a team, you need a bit of physical and people gathering together, and for me that would be probably the biggest things preventing us to call that a real new normal.
Yeah, I agree. And at work, I used to get Nairobi coffee. Now I get some stupid coffee at home, and I have to make it myself, so it doesn't taste the same. So that's
probably.
I want to go, and I can't complain about any of this because either I make it, or if I complain to my boss here, I would get nothing. So, so I have to be happy with what I get, right? So the thing is, this looks like a long haul for us, I mean, and Paul, maybe you would have it since you spend more time with the medical folks. Is initially I said, hey, another 2 weeks we're going to open, another month we're going to open, we're going to be fine, we're going to get herd immunity, or we're going to have great medicines that's coming up. And while the medical community is going as fast as they can. It still looks like it could take a year to get a proper vaccination. It could take us 18 months after that for all of us to get vaccinated. So you're talking either 1.5 years to 2 years before we can all start hugging each other and celebrating. So clearly we have to work on a work 2.0 kind of thing. To me, it seems like for a longer time than before. Would you agree? Is that how you see it?
The last estimate I saw was 2 years before they can either have a vaccination and or get everybody vaccinated. So 2 years is a long time. I think that I would be very okay with, say, my revenue cycle team working from home, because they don't need a lot of collaboration. They don't need a lot of human interaction to be really good at their jobs. And so I think that work 2.0 for them, that's not that far of a stretch. But then you look at like my flight coordination team, who they intake the calls, they're doing okay. But when you can look at somebody that sits next to you and say, hey, I've got this patient, this is the scenario, and then you start talking about the logistics of it, you start talking about the patient condition, you're going to start making decisions that are better because you can immediately talk to somebody. And those decisions are going to be better for both the patient's outcome and their safety, as well as like insurance and cost. And, there's all these things that you roll up into it that, a lot of people don't really realize what has to happen. So that's going to be unique.
I can see your points. I think you're clearly on this side. So I'm going to ask Phares a slightly different question. You do have to bring some people to work, right? I mean, it's like some people actually do want to work as well. And also you're required, like Didier and Paul said, some people need to come to work. How do you actually thinking about bringing people to work? So, so you cannot overcrowd them. You cannot have all of them come at the same time. How do you ensure that people are not coming, close to each other? Are you guys using any tools, or how are you thinking about bringing people back to work?
Well, at the moment, we have no plans of bringing people back to work. But should we do that? We were lucky enough that our office has quite an amount of space. And so that was not quite a problem initially. There are just a few things. And I'll just go on a very slight tangent. If you look at the technology that's had the biggest impact with humanity, it's always been collaboration, whether it's the printing press or even the internet. Like, we are naturally cooperative beings. But the thing is, when you're communicating with someone, there's so many cues that you sort of miss when you're like online here. If we were in a room together, I'd be able to read everyone's facial cues properly, but no, there's just a tiny screen, and there's a lot of communication that we really just can't. There's a lot that's unsaid that we can't communicate. A cringe when somebody says something you disagree with, or that sort of thing. And so I think, to answer your question in a roundabout sort of way, the need for an office has always been there. If you look, I'll use VMware as an example. You've got over 20,000 employees scattered across the world. It's not like all of you had to show up in Palo Alto. You already had the tools to collaborate, and like the teams working in Africa and the teams working in Asia in different time zones, and all of them could collaborate to build one company. So that was already the case. But the reason why people had an office is because there's more to it than just sort of exchanging emails and all of that. So the first priority is keeping people safe. The way we look at it is, we're in an uncertain period. We don't know when this ends. Like you said, there's a Warren Buffett quote that the forecast usually tells more about the forecaster than the forecast itself. Because we really don't know what the future holds. If at the beginning of 2020, all of us had grand plans, yet here we are. And so our take is that we'll just respond to the needs as they are. So for certain things, like there's certain documents people have to ship around physically, those people have to come to work. You can schedule it. You can say, if a document has to be signed by 3 people, first person can come and sign it, and the second person can go. You can create more space in the office by having some people work from home, and you just schedule it so that everyone is safe. But the way the approach we're taking is just it's better to be safe than sorry. I mean, I wouldn't want to have somebody's death on my shoulder. And there are other considerations as well for us, because not everyone drives. So if you ask people to come back to work, they're going to be using public transport. Like globally, public transport has been one of the primary ways people get the sickness. And so all these considerations mean that we are on the side of safety, because the reality of the matter is we just don't have enough information on what's safe. You have some data, like, it's relatively safe to work if you're 2 of you in an office, but we are just we're taking a very cautious approach.
So I think, Paul, you may appreciate this. So one of the things we have done is we've seen in certain places where collaboration has gone even higher. I asked for my Workspace ONE team, since you're a Workspace ONE team, I told them, I don't know how to bring back people to work because I have to make sure that the building is only 50% occupied or 40% occupied. And I can't be standing guards counting how many people come in and how many people go in, read a badge, whatever. And then secondly, I want to tell people you're coming close to each other, close to 6 feet, 10 times yesterday, right? Just to give a warning. And then you should do that without violating privacy and other kind of things, right? So one of the things we've asked, we spitballed with a bunch of engineers, and they've done it in a relatively short time, is with Workspace ONE, they're releasing a product. I think we're going to call it Campus. It's so new that I'm the customer number 1. So you folks can be customer number 2, 3 if you want. It is like you can use that phone to enter the building if you want. So you don't have to put your badge and touch any of those readers. It'll open like Star Trek doors. The doors will open. That's one idea. Then you come inside, and then we know how many people are there, and we have beacons that we have put on the campuses, several places. So we can tell you that you came close to somebody else 8 times. It doesn't mean you're infected. We're just saying you're not really following protocol, and 8 or 9 times yesterday. And it's anonymous. So it's just the system telling you that, Paul, you came within people 10 times yesterday. Just watch it. And if you say, where did I do this? It'll say restroom, break area, places you would not think, right? So that's one. The second is, if you're at home and you have to drive 3 hours and then you find out the building is already 50% occupied, that's really frustrating. You didn't want to come to work, and then when you come to work, you're not allowed to get in because it's occupied. So you can check all that and say it's 30% occupied, 20% occupied. When you get to 40%, we can just tell you don't even bother driving, right? And then you can book offices like you would do perhaps for like an airline, give me an aisle seat, give me a place in this place, and you can book those rooms, etc. And then in cases where somebody actually self-declares and says, I have been infected with anything, not just COVID, we don't need to know the names of the people. In fact, if I come back and say I'm infected, we're thinking, well, we can say, all the beacons I walk to, all the places I walk to, now those becomes infected. Right. So now, if you walk, Jeremiah, close to a beacon that I have been infected, it'll just tell you came to an infected beacon. It's not going to tell you Bask Iyer is infected. There's no privacy. It's just going to say you came near an infected beacon. The beacon is infected. So you may want to get yourself checked. I'm not tracking it. None of that. So we're looking at all that. Two reasons I mentioned that is there are some things where you can push collaboration very hard online because we did all of this online. But the reason we were able to push that online is I have a good relationship with Shankar, his team, all the guys who do development and so on. So I have enough glue built already with them that I know them. If I didn't know any of them, then it would have been a little bit more difficult to, you'll say, who the hell are you? Why are you telling me you're not my business unit leader? We don't, that's not a priority. You'll get into all those kind of discussions. So that's one reason is there's ways to build this collaboration. If you constantly work on the relationship, even when you go off this, have some celebration with people, then you can continue doing remotely. And secondly, you guys, that's how I was thinking about, can I use technologies to bring people back to work? And so if you guys want to try it out or contribute to it, you're more than welcome as well, especially if you're a VMware customer. So let me open to Paul. Any thoughts on how you're going to bring back folks?
We've been thinking about it. We've got a whole letter that we kind of developed. What are our steps to bring them back? What are the phases that we want to bring, our employees back? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that happen within the office so like right now, every 2 days, we have 3 people that actually physically go to the office because we have to do insurance claims. And those insurance claims have to be printed. They have to be binded. They have to be put in an envelope. They have to be mailed out. We then have appeals for insurance claims, again, have to be printed. So there's interaction that these people are going to be relatively close proximity to each other. And so how do we figure that out? Right now, it's no big deal because it's the same 3 people. They know exactly what to expect. They each have their own printer because there's 3 big printers in the office, and they're able to each use their own individual printer. Works great, but what happens when you bring everybody else back? And So like right now, they're doing the printing for every employee. Getting everybody to work from home is one thing. Bringing everybody back, getting their computers set back up in the office and making sure they're comfortable in their workspace, making sure that there's 6 feet between employees, that's not going to happen instantaneously. So you can't be like, everybody has to be here Monday morning at 8 a.m. and I expect you to be working by 8:15. There's going to be a few hours where everybody has to get comfortable and stuff like that. So that'll have to be phased in. And when you phase that in, how do you phase it in? And do you run, shifts where like half the staff comes in at one time and half the staff comes in at the other? And it's tough because at the same time, we had the whole conversation about, do we bring everybody back? Is it even worth it? Because we have this group of employees that theoretically could work from home. But then when you start looking at that, it's like, I'm still paying for the building for another 5 years on my lease. And so it's like, do I not want to use it anymore? I mean, there's been so many variables that it's been an interesting challenge. It's fun. I'll tell you that. Like the pandemic has, put people in positions to do things that they've never done, just like what you guys are doing right now with the access and the beacons and stuff like that.
So I think we have a couple of minutes or so. So let me first thank all of you for a tremendous kind of discussion. I hope it was useful. And the purpose of this was to make sure practitioners get value out of it. I think leadership clearly shows. None of you talked about, very few discussion on IT. It's about how do you bring people back to work? How do you get the company going? It's very, very clear that IT and all of you have stepped up from a leadership standpoint to make it all happen. Right? And I think they say crisis brings the best out of leadership. So that's pretty obvious. My only hidden agenda is, IT and the information technology professionals are typically typecast into somebody who are geeky, technical, work the things and so on, right? And I think that the whole world should see this as a lot of the frontline workers are people such as yourself who are enabling enormous productivity. Otherwise, we will be dead in water in most companies, right? So I want to thank you on behalf of the community. And we'll do more discussions. Give me feedback if you like these kind of discussions. I'd like to see you folks again and have another chat. We could have probably talked for hours on this. So Didier, thank you. And Jeremiah, Paul, Phares, thank you. Thank you very much for meeting.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.